Okay, so the next mystery topic kind of relates to Will and his specialties. Yes.
Oh, no.
I want to talk about music and games. And specifically about how you guys, I know both of you, but I mean, Will, you know your music because you went to school for music and everything, right? So,
yeah.
You guys both pay attention to the soundtrack infinitely more than I do. Like,
yeah.
If I had to write down the list of things I notice while I'm playing, soundtrack wouldn't even be in the top 10 unless it was a phenomenal soundtrack.
It's like Journey.
It's more so something that affects me like subconsciously that I don't really notice. So I mean, with something like that where, and I know that I'm not alone on that, right? And I know that you're not alone in it. There are a lot of people that recognize it, but there are also a lot of people that don't put it to the forefront of the things that they're noticing, right? So how do you... What do you think makes a good game soundtrack? And I'm talking about like an orchestrated soundtrack, not a licensed soundtrack, because we'll talk about that too. But what do you think makes a good orchestrated soundtrack? Like
well, this is your topic. You can start.
Yeah. I just think like a good orchestrated soundtrack should just like it has to trigger the right emotions at the right times, because like you don't have a soundtrack for real life. Where like if something sad's happening, you're not going to hear a sad violin in real life unless you're like a concert hall or something.
Unless you're a billionaire and pay someone to follow you around.
Yeah, exactly. yeah. I don't know. It needs to trigger the right emotion. Like you need the right chord progression at the right time. And it's just like, yes, this fits the situation. I don't know how to describe it properly.
It's just
a very
feeling
difficult question. Exactly.
Yeah, I'll use The Last of Us as an example. Like,
good soundtrack.
One of the best game soundtracks I've ever heard. In fact, I would say it is probably the best, close to Journey. But it's the scene where you're riding the horses back to Tommy's camp, and there's just that little tiny. I don't even know if it's like a guitar.
It's an acoustic guitar.
Yeah, it's an acoustic guitar. It's like playing, and it's so quiet. And you just see them riding the horses through the forest, and it's right after that huge emotional scene between Joel and Ellie, and you're just going back, and the entire time you're wondering like, okay, Joel's saying he's gonna leave Ellie, he's gonna leave Ellie with Tommy, but this game has to continue. Like, why is he making this choice? And oddly enough, the name of that track is called The Choice, but as it's going, it just fits, and it's one of those things where you don't. Like, as it's playing the first time, you don't think about it at all. It's not until after the scene where you're like, that was awesome.
Well, I'm actually, unfortunately, I'm listening to the music more than the dialogue sometimes.
Yeah, that's me, like, sometimes as well, but more, like, I think for me, the music, I notice it afterwards, but at the same time, I go out of my way to notice it, because because it's one of those things where I'm connecting the dialogue, the action, and the sound all at the same time. I'm trying to get all of them there all at once.
I was gonna say,
I think that's because of your theater studying.
Maybe.
I was gonna say I can't say that I ever had the problem of where I'm not paying attention to dialogue over music.
Yeah.
I think it's more of it's like if you're doing your job right, then it's something that kind of like nobody really notices sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's like if you totally screw it up, then people are going to be like, what the hell is going on with this soundtrack?
But another example, like if you want to talk about like triggering the right emotions, times when music, in a sense, wouldn't be there and you don't think would fit. But if you look at RPG games, like battle themes, when you go into a random battle and you hear the music.
Awesome.
Like a game, in my opinion, a game like an RPG can be broken and can be so boring if the battle theme is terrible, because the majority of the stuff you're going to be doing is battling monsters or battling enemies in RPGs. And if the battle theme is very, like, low energy...
You need something exciting.
You need something exciting to, like, get it pumped up. But then there are moments, like, say, in Final Fantasy VII, right after the scene where Aerith dies. Spoilers. Like, right after... Don't say spoilers after the spoiler, Danny. I know that's but it's right after the scene where, like, Aerith
I thought we were
dies.
cautious here.
You fight another Genova, but the boss theme isn't playing, it's Aerith's theme. So it's also what happens in the right moment. Like you just saw one of your party members was just killed. Like your party member was just killed. You're like, oh my god, this is ridiculous. And the Aerith theme is playing, and then you're immediately rushed into fighting this really hard boss. Unless you have a certain item, then you're basically unbeatable. And then her theme is playing, and so the entire time you're fighting this boss, this theme in your head is reminding you, this like Aerith is dead. Kick the shit out of this thing.
Yeah.
So
if I'm doing a boss fight, I need a good boss fight music. Like I've judged games on boss fight music.
Yeah, same. Like I don't know if any of you like follow me on Twitter when I do like talk about my game soundtracks. Like Child of Light has the best battle themes in games like in RPGs that I played since like Final Fantasy X, and that was 15 years ago.
Well, heck, Danny, we've broken out into just random bouts of singing the gold and silver battle theme for the champion.
And remember when you and I are battling on Pokemon, I switch your theme to the champion theme, X and Y, because I'm like, whenever I'm battling you guys, I'm battling like I could use like the rival theme in a sense, but like I'm battling guys who are good at the game, and I always feel like it's a life or death situation. Yeah, we get really into this shit, listeners.
We do.
It's kind of ridiculous.
So
we have rules.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a game or even a movie where you heard the soundtrack and you thought, "Wow, this is terrible"? Do you have an example of one, or like off the top of your head?
I'm not gonna say no. I've never had any that are terrible.
No, I think it's
I'm not going to say there's such thing as absolutely terrible music.
It's more the sound design. The way the whole music, in a sense, is designed around it.
What about The Room?
I am actually not even going to say that's bad. That's just funny. Like, because it uses the same fucking track throughout the entire film, and you know when you're watching it, it's a bad movie. So if something is actually good in the film, you're being like, holy crap, this is not supposed to be like this. Someone actually was worth the money they paid. But, so, no, like, I'm like a huge, like, advocate that video game music is getting a hell of a lot better than film music. And I think, like, games like The Last of Us are perfect examples as to why video game music is getting better. And even Journey, like, the end of Journey when you just felt, spoilers, sorry, I caught myself again.
Do the thing, Danny.
I caught it. At the end when you supposedly die and you collapse on the snowy mountain, and then all of a sudden you rush up into the sky and you have like an unlimited scarf and you can fly. The song or the theme that plays is just so like uplifting, and it always sounds like it keeps pushing you further. And the whole point of that scene is you just keep going, and that theme just keeps pushing you further. Like, so with video game music, I always find because you are interacting with the game, the music has to assist you in interacting as well, in a sense. That's good sound design is the way I look at it.
Well, that kind of brings me to like,
game design, sound design, all of it, yeah.
I'm going to be studying that soon. I got a sound design course first semester. But yeah, one thing that I've always found interesting is like the archetypes that have been developing for different game music now.
Oh yeah, like what?
So, like, if you're doing a zombie game or a post-apocalyptic game, chances are it's going to be acoustic guitars and violins.
Oh, yeah.
If you're doing an adventure game like Journey, it's going to be cellos and violins, maybe some wind instruments. If you're doing a big RPG, just take an entire orchestra and just make them play.
Yeah. Like, I'll use another example of how, like, why I pay attention to the soundtrack a lot more. But Will nailed it on the head perfectly when he first said it. Like, it's the right emotion at the right time, and it enhances the way you feel when you play the game. Like, I think I've talked about it on the podcast before, way back when. Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII is one of my favorite Final Fantasy games, even though it's not even a main game in the series. The end fight of that game, spoilers, the end fight is not even an end fight. It's more like you fight the final boss, and then there's another fight afterwards that you cannot win. You cannot win at all, and because the story, anyone who's played Final Fantasy VII knows that at the end of the game, the main character is going to die. They like know that at the end of Crisis Core, your character will die. Yet the game is there, like you're at the end of the game. Yet your character's still alive. So what's going to happen? How is he going to die? And so they make you fight an unwinnable fight, but the music is so like sad, it's so just like somber, but it's so like you just want to keep playing. You want to try to keep this guy alive as long as possible, even though it's impossible. You know there's absolutely no way you will keep this guy alive, but the music pushes you forward to try to keep him alive.
Yeah, and now that I'm thinking about it, like, and talking about how I don't pay attention to music, now that I can think of an example of a good song. But there was and I know you both haven't played this game, so it's an example to me. But Red Dead Redemption, thinking about it now, had an excellent soundtrack.
Okay.
But just because like some of the things is like when you first go into Mexico for the first time, people talk about like that's how like arguably the highlight of the game. It's just like 'cause there's such great scenery and you're just like riding along on your horse, and then the soundtrack that's playing. It's like it's just really cool. But the highlight to me was at the end, and I use end loosely because there's an ending and there's like an epilogue and there's like a bunch of different things that happen. But close to
I know what happens.
one of the main ending points that happens, or one of the big plot points. After that, you're just kind of left with a now what kind of moment, and so then you're just kind of like riding, and it's like, okay, everything's over. This is the end, right? And the song that plays then is just perfect. And it's like, you kind of don't want to get, like, you kind of want to just listen to the song. It's such a perfect fit. So, that's my example. But,
you know what?
So,
I just thought of a video game where I wasn't happy with the music choice.
oh yeah?
Danny, you might punch me for this,
Oh, okay, let's hear it.
but at the ending of Mass Effect 3,
Right.
when the Normandy crash lands on that planet before the extended cut ending, I hated that song.
Oh, Das Malefic by Fonts. I
hated that.
I'm not, like, Fonts is one of my like I love the shit that they did on M4, their extended play. But I didn't even know that was them. I didn't care for it.
Yeah, it left a sour taste in my mouth.
See, I don't think like it's kind of weird. I can't pinpoint a game that I played that I didn't like the soundtrack. Maybe because I'm picky when it comes to the games I play. Because I kind of research like, is this game getting slammed? Unless it's a game that I've been looking forward to. Even if it's getting slammed, I'm going to play it and I'm going to make my own judgments on it. But I guess one that would be close. It's not that like Final Fantasy X-2 had a more Did I hear someone chuckle in the background there? Because that
was me.
Ridiculous, yeah. The soundtrack itself was good, but it was more like pop music oriented, and Final Fantasy X was not.
No.
And they took like I liked Final Fantasy X too. It was a great game. And the soundtrack itself was good, but it was more like I'm playing a sequel to one of my favorite games ever that had one of the best soundtracks and it had one of the best like stories, and now it's basically all like pop music.
Yeah.
Compared to like piano and violins.
Beautiful scores in Final Fantasy X.
Yeah, like Final Fantasy X is probably the best soundtrack of any Final Fantasy game I've ever played.
Or I'm tempted to say game.
Okay, so what do you think of licensed soundtracks? I mean, like we were talking about how you were like the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack, right? And I'm pretty sure that's mostly like licensed to music, is it not?
I have both CDs. I have Awesome Mix Volume 1 and the actual soundtrack. Awesome Mix Volume 1 is only 12 songs, but the other one is 29 songs, but they are the exact same length.
I think with licensed music, it depends more on like
licensed music fit Guardians so well.
It fit Guardians because the music that they chose fit with
the
part
theme
of the story of Star-Lord.
Yeah.
Like
it was part of his story as a whole.
Yeah, like if you just put like if you just say, or if you have like a sound designer or a sound director who's picking music for a film, he's just like, oh, let's pick this one and put it in there because I like the song. No, like you're not gonna put Lil Wayne in Guardians of the Galaxy. You're not gonna put that. You're not gonna put Britney Spears in in a very tense drama film. You're not going to do that.
Just picture something that's just like the 50 Shades of Grey movie finally comes out. It's like, hey, why don't we put a Ride the Lightning in that movie? Yeah, that'll fit perfectly.
But like, for instance, this is just a really stupid example. I don't know if there's any films, but like, no, actually, here's a perfect example. School of Rock. That film had almost all licensed music, and it fit because the story and the themes and just the everything that was around the film. The whole film was about a guy who loved rock music, so of course the film's going to have rock music in it, and none of it felt out of place. It's the same thing with Guardians. Star-Lord was a child of the 80s. There's no music that's after 1988 in that film.
So what about? Oh, sorry. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, and it's because like every song that was chosen for that film felt like it fit because that's the kind of stuff Peter Quill would listen to because that's the only stuff he had exposure to. So you just understood.
So what do you think about like Grand Theft Auto, about how like all the radio stations are like that's basically the songs that are in the movie or in the game. It's just all licensed songs.
Well, that also makes sense because you only hear them when you're listening to a radio or when you're driving a car. So you're gonna obviously you're gonna be listening to the radio, and any music can come on. So theoretically, Grand Theft Auto kind of gets a pass on this, in my opinion, where they can put anything in there.
Like
just you can just change to any
license. Yeah, including licensed music as part of like a game's background soundtrack does not sit well. I don't think that's what games are about. Unless it's part of the story. Like if in The Last of Us, Ellie or Joel had like a cassette tape or a CD player that was a song that they really like. It's like Guardians. If it's part of their story, I can let it slide.
If it's just thrown in there for the sake of throwing in there, I'm just like, no, don't.
And I mean, Grand Theft Auto does have songs that like if you turn off the radio, it'll play an ambient soundtrack that's like not licensed, that was made for the game, right? Same as all of the theme songs and stuff like that. Like, every Grand Theft Auto has had a theme song, and it's a recognizable song for, like, every single game. So, like, there is music that is written for it, but it definitely gets overshadowed by the licensed soundtrack.
Yeah, like,
right?
Licensed music, it has a place, but every game does need a good original score.
Yeah, you can never have a film that relies solely on, or I don't like films that rely solely on licensed music.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's like the point, like you said, like School of Rock, like.
Oh yeah, like that's where that works. But, like, have any of you seen the movie Garden State?
No,
I don't think I have.
That was Zach Braff, Ian Holm, Natalie Portman, Peter Sarsgaard.
Was that a Kevin Smith movie?
No. It was a Zach Braff movie. He wrote, directed, starred in the film. He did it.
Which one am I thinking of?
Clerks?
No. He did something with Jersey in it.
Oh, Jersey Girl.
Oh, okay. That's what I was thinking of. Okay, anyway, continue. Sorry. It would have bothered me.
This is an example of a soundtrack, like, one that went well because it won the Grammy Award for Best Compilation Soundtrack Album for a motion picture. Or television or other visual media, whatever
bullshit grouping that they have for award shows now.
Yeah, and like Zach Braff handpicked the music himself because he basically had full control over this film because he wrote it. He knew what he wanted with the script. He knew what he wanted with in terms of how it was going to be directed. He knew how the main character would act. That's why he was the one acting in it, and so he knew the songs to pick for the movie and why it made the movie so much better. So it's basically I just sum it up as if you have licensed music, there has to be a point to it being in the film.
Okay. You know what really bugged me?
What?
With Transformers, the first one, they had a Linkin Park song in it, a few other songs, but they managed to shove a bunch of licensed music into the credits.
Oh yeah.
And somehow that made it onto the soundtrack, whereas the soundtrack for Transformers is one of my favorite of all time. Like, just the score. And it's beautiful. And then he's got all this licensed music that's just thrown in there.
Well,
I mean, like
licensed music sells.
Most of the time, like, credits I'm not gonna say 100% of the time, but most of the time especially for an action movie or a lighter movie, not necessarily a drama, but I mean, it starts out with, a licensed song. And then after a while, kind of like when that song's done, it goes into something that was on the score, right? Like,
Yeah.
Some directors even, like what we were saying, like they can manipulate, like once they get the rights to that track, they can manipulate it in ways, I think. Because look at what Christopher Nolan did for Inception. He took an Edith Piaf song and he slowed it down to like almost unrecognizable levels, and that became the boom sound that you hear throughout all the action scenes. And it fit because the whole point is like as you're in the dream, time's moving slower. So in real world, you hear the song as is because the kick in Inception is when they hear that song. So in the real world, that song's playing full speed, but the further you go down in the dream world, the song just slows down.
so what do you think of songs that are written by big name artists specifically for a movie? Like, let's take for example the James Bond theme. Like,
That's fine.
I have no problem with the
Yeah,
James
I don't
Bond
have-
theme because that's a tradition.
Yeah, and I don't even think, like, also if you look at like the song "I See You" for Avatar, the song's written, and the lyrics and the backing and all that. Yeah, thanks, Will. That has to do the story of the film itself. Same thing with "My Heart Will Go On" for Titanic. Is that the one? Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, like all that stuff is written with the purpose, and it's not shoved down our throats during the movie or the game or whatever. Like for Tron, Daft Punk did the entire soundtrack. It was amazing.
Yeah, the soundtrack for that was good.
Yeah.
But Lee, you're just talking about like end credit song, right?
yeah, no, I'm talking about like, let's take for example like a Disney movie where it's like or Tarzan, where the entire soundtrack was written by Phil Collins, and it's like he had songs that he wrote that were specifically to be like for certain parts of the movie.
Oh, I have no problems with that.
Yeah, that's cool. Of course, that's different because it's the Disney musical.
Yeah.
Like, I have no problems with, like, I'll just sum it up with, I have no problems with any music that's in the film that's there because it connects with the film itself.
Yeah.
I have no
thrown
problem
in there for pulling in money or something. I have a problem.
Like, one I actually do have sort of a problem with. Like, I'm a huge Aerosmith fan. The song "I Don't Want to Miss a Thing" for Armageddon, I feel like had no, like, I like the song, but when I listen to it and then I think about the movie Armageddon, I'm like, this has, like, really nothing to do with the movie Armageddon. This should not belong in Armageddon at all.
That song just doesn't really belong anywhere anymore.
I know, because it's so not Aerosmith. Like,
Yeah.
I like the song as a song, but it's not Aerosmith song. It's like Final Fantasy 13. I like it as a game. It's a good game sometimes. As a Final Fantasy game, it's fucking trash. That makes sense.
When
Sorry.
you're bleep in there.
As
When you're
it-
bleep.
Listeners, if you haven't noticed, I sort of like to slip in parts of the Final Fantasy rant a lot.
It just permeates everything. It's just
It's find its way there.
Danny. I
Well,
just
you know we
picture
need-
you.
we need, like-
sorry, yeah, you go, Will. Go, Will.
We need like a swear jar, except for it's whenever Danny says something about Final Fantasy.
I was
Final
gonna say,
Fantasy jar, put a quarter.
I pictured Danny just like waking up in a cold sweat and be like, "Ugh, Final Fantasy IX, ugh." Like he's just mad at something. Like,
Wait, no, I never get mad at Final Fantasy IX. That game was perfect.
oh, I don't
Fantasy
know what
IX.
any of them are about or anything.
Lee,
Just
you
took
will
that off the
do
top
a
of my head.
service to yourself if you play 9. 9 has the best character in any game ever. I'm just saying right now. Vivi, you are a game character, but if you can hear me, I love you.
Danny, take a breath. Just
No.
breathe a bit.
Vivi is amazing. My desktop background is Vivi.
Oh, Danny.
I wish I'm kidding, but I'm not.
Danny.
Is that the short one with the pointy hat and the? Are you talking about that character?
Yeah, the Black Mage.
Oh, okay. I know what that looks like, but I don't know what the character
It's
is.
the most relatable character in all the video games, I think. So, but, yeah.
Okay, well, I think that we've discussed soundtracks enough.
Music.
Anything you want to finish off, Will? Anything that, if you had to speak to anybody who does a video game soundtrack from now on, what would you tell them? What advice would you give them?
Oh no. What advice? Don't do drug. No, that's the wrong one. God. Make it good. Make it count.
Make it matter.
Put time and effort into it. Yeah.
Make it matter.
Just connect with it. Make it your own. Doesn't care what other people want. If you think it fits with the game, go for it. Someone will like it somewhere.
And listeners,
And
if
don't
you,
do
well, that goes without saying, but, well, maybe not in music, but anyway. But, listeners, if you listen to, tell us whether or not you listen to, pay attention to the soundtrack, whether or not you, if that's an important thing, let us know. We'll be eagerly awaiting your